This is so important for people who are getting their license to go beyond getting the license itself. What's the next step?
Yep.
I really believe we've already been in our difficult 2 years of real estate. I do believe we are coming out of it.
How are you doing this? How are you able to consistently close anywhere between 80 to 100 homes year over year?
What I would tell any agent and what I've done is...
Hey, my friends, welcome to another episode of Alan Kay Show, brought to you by Modern Day Brokerage. And today we have a special guest, very unique, I would say probably a unicorn in the real estate industry. This individual has been in real estate since 2002, so 22 years. Personally, she sold close to 1,400 homes, again, as a solo agent, $450 million in sales. Last year in 2023, it was a very tough year, very, very hard year. There were agents that were going out of business, or agents that used to do 20 deals, barely were generating 10 deals. She sold 100 homes for $58 million in sales. So great guest. She is the epitome of consistency, hard work, dedication, and perseverance. We got Rebecca Darfy today. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Nolan.
All right. Well, I want to know how you're doing this. And look, I have a fortune and pleasure to interview, entrepreneurs, business owners, team owners, brokerage owners. And yes, they're generating those type of numbers, but they got teams, right? They got agents, they got lots of staff. You're doing this on your own. I mean, you're a solo agent. You don't have an army of agents.
No. I have a great team behind me, but it's my assistant and my husband.
Your husband, right?
Yeah.
But last year was a tough year.
Yeah.
And this year is not even easy. It's continuation.
This year's even tougher.
Tougher.
Yeah.
And especially what happened with NAR and all of that and all that uncertainty. So how are you doing this? How are you able to consistently close anywhere between 80 to 100 homes year over year?
Well, I think what I would tell any agent and what I've done is just put my head down and work and quit listening to all the noise. People try to make us think it's terrible. They make us think that we're in trouble. There's always people who are going to buy and sell homes no matter what market we're in. And those are the people I'm going to find, and that is probably key, is quit listening to all of that noise. Do your job, work hard, take care of your people. They'll take care of you.
Yeah. So, well, kind of walk us through that process. What does your a daily routine looks like? Your weekly schedule looks like. It's so hard to block out that noise. There's so much negativity. There's so much uncertainty, right? Again, what happened a few months ago? You had some agents losing their, with the NAR settlement thing, right? And finally, I think it looks like we're gonna get the new way of doing things on August 1st. But how do you kind of put your head down, concentrate, focus on the things that I guess you can control versus the things that just kind of out of your control?
Well, I think it will give every agent strength if they are confident in and knowledgeable about what's coming down. So I think a lot of agents are just just tell me when it's over.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You've got to know exactly what's coming, and you've got to be able to head on hit it. And I've had multiple clients in listings since May who have brought it up. I had one client who ripped out a page from a newspaper and said, "What's this all about?" So, They don't know.
What was your reaction when he did that?
I said, "This is great. Thank you for bringing this up because we do want to address it."
Yeah.
And then I go through and address why I don't, in my own personal opinion, I don't see that it necessarily is going to make a big difference for sellers. They're going to offer compensation in a different way, but we still want to market around their house. And so it's up to them. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But do you want to create an affordability issue more than there already is for a buyer? Or do we want to entice them to come to your house?
Yeah.
And I think, and not one single seller has said, oh, I'm not gonna entice them. I'm not gonna create a market around my house. Everyone has agreed that that makes sense. So I don't know how this will shake out.
Yeah.
It truly does not bother me. It will be what it will be. I'm gonna be able to explain my value.
Yeah.
And that's what each agent needs to do, is they need to feel good enough and strong enough about who they are
Yeah.
that they're going to offer a value to
Yeah.
that buyer or that seller.
Yeah.
And then that buyer and seller will determine if that value matters to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you, and again, I know some agents probably going to say, well, she's been in business for 22 years. Yeah, but I know a lot of agents that have been in business for 32 years, and collectively in 32 years, they probably sold like 100 homes.
I say that to everybody. You can be in business 10 years and sell one house.
So exactly. Yeah. So, but how do you do it year over year? Like, how do you do it? I mean, I guess let's talk about the lead sources, right? So I'm a huge believer that in order for you to consistently close deals, you have to have a consistent flow of opportunities coming in. Whether they're buyer leads or seller leads, you got to do some sort of a marketing. You got to, maximize your sphere, like all of that. How do you generate most, if not all of your business?
Most of my business is referral.
Referral.
Yeah. And of course, I started out slower.
Yeah.
And you build over time. I've seen a lot of markets. I've seen a lot of unique situations. It has not always been easy. 2014, 2019, those were even markets. So it's over time you gain knowledge and strength and experience. I have never made a cold call. I have never knocked on a door for a lead.
Never in your real estate career you cold
No.
A prospect.
No.
Never.
Not unless it was a referral from an agent. But never just picked up the phone and said, "Hey, I don't even know what that would look like."
Yeah.
My father was a sales. He was a regional manager of insurance and investments.
Yeah.
And he used to pay my brothers and sisters $1 if they could get a lead, and they would open up the white pages and they would just call people. So I will tell you, if I thought that I had to do anything like that, I probably would have never done real estate.
Pretty much exactly what that is, right? You're cold calling. Yeah. So never done any of that.
No.
Okay. So, I mean, but here's the thing though, with referrals, the knock on the referrals is the fact that it's inconsistent, right? And like, for example, in all honest truth, if I'm mentoring a brand new agent, right, and that agent, let's say they're young and they don't have a big network of people that they know, I don't think they should be focusing on the referrals.
They don't have them.
Yeah, they don't have them, right? Like, so to kind of wait and see and hope that somebody's going to call you and say, hey, I want to list my house and everything like that. I mean, that's not the way to do it, right? So what would you say to an agent right now that, for example, young, ambitious, but don't have that big network of people that they know, big circle of friends, right? Yeah. Or let's say, for example, they do have that circle, but maybe in their 20s and they're not really the right avatar to sell a house right now or even to buy a house.
Yeah. I would tell them, first of all, always act like you're busy, even if you're not.
I love that.
So you don't want people to assume you don't have any business. You certainly don't want them to
don't
say,
be a closet realtor. Yeah.
Before I got my license, or I was in class, just about to take the test, I sent out a letter to everybody I knew and said, and all it was here's things to do to prepare to sell your house. Smells, clean, all that stuff.
Before you got your real estate license, you were already sending out letters?
But the letter wasn't for them to use me as an agent. It was to let them know I'm getting my license. Yeah. And this is something I ran across, and I thought it was such great information, I wanted to share it.
Yeah.
Then at that time, remember back, this is 2002, when people were scrapbooking. It was physical scrapbooking. Yeah. So I went and got I didn't have a lot of money at all, but I went and got all those, a house, like a decal of a house, and I stuck it on that page, and I put my card inside it, and I sent it to everybody I knew. And the reason I did it before I got my license was it was a soft sell. I wasn't asking for anything. They knew I wasn't like
almost kind of like planting seeds.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah.
I told everybody I knew that I was going to class because it was less intrusive. It was less awkward for those people I was telling because I didn't have my license yet. So that was my start, and that was just my sphere. You have to tap into your sphere.
Right.
If you go to church, soccer games, if you do whatever you do, talk to all those people, and it will start to come through. Now, I didn't farm until 4 years ago. So I didn't really understand why I needed to. I was doing my, my referrals. About 4 years ago, when my husband became the DO, he said, you need to do more. You need to pick an area and you need to love it and nurture it. That has been huge for us. We've really profited from our farm.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was missing out on. So farming, I think, is very important. I think open houses are going to change with the NAR settlement.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a little bit confusing for people. I also think with Matterport and all these different things that people can do to walk a home, I just don't see them as the lead generator that they used to be. But I would definitely get in on open houses when you can. That is the only way, especially in retirement communities, because they're still going to want to walk in a home on their own time.
So going back to 2002, right? You're sending these letters, you're educating them, you're letting them know that, hey, this is what you may want to do to improve the showing condition of your home and all that kind of stuff, right? So you get your real estate license now, right? So what were your first 1 or 2 steps in generating business and getting those clients?
This is so important for agents or people who are getting their license to go beyond getting the license itself. What's the next step?
Yep.
I was in my home. This is 2002. I had my license 2 weeks, and my husband was out front doing landscaping, and the neighbor, her mother, was out front doing landscaping, and they were talking, and they were getting a divorce. I knew them, but I didn't know they were getting a divorce. And as he was talking to the mother, she was saying, we're going to have to sell the house, and it's just a mess. And he said, well, Rebecca just got her license. Why don't I have her come out here and talk to you about it? And so he walked in and he said, you got to go out there. The neighbors are selling their house and they need a realtor. And I literally said these words, what are you doing? No, I don't know what I'm doing. No, I literally wasn't ready. I was not. I had my license.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Plus, it's a divorce situation, which is probably the most difficult. Yeah.
It was one of the hardest deals I've ever done. Back in 2002, we had fax machines. We didn't have all this DocuSign, and it was brutal. Here's 2 people who loved each other who no longer love each other. She headed out to California. It was so hard.
Yeah.
Closing day, of course, this is going to be my neighbor too. And closing day, they did not move out. All their furniture was in the house. And he refused. And he told me, just get rid of it yourself. I didn't know what to do. Now you wouldn't want to do that because that's a liability on us.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different. And these people are on the curb.
Yeah.
So I had
You're talking about the buyers, the buyers on the curb?
The seller never moved out. The buyers on the curb saying, why can't I get in the house?
And they know that you're the neighbor.
Did they know? So I called a junk hauling company. I'm like, just get it out. Whatever you have to do, get it out.
Yeah.
And it was just brutal. But that was my first deal, and I have never not had a transaction since that day.
Okay, so it was a big win.
It was a big win. It was a very important learning curve.
Okay. Was there any time during that process where you're like, why did I sign up for this? Like, I don't want to be a real estate agent. Like, if this is, like, for some people, when they go through that, especially when it comes to their first transactions, like, is it what going to happen every single time going forward? Like, do I really want to be a real estate agent?
I mean, I probably should have. I didn't know enough to, I was a paralegal. The contract part of it didn't bother me at all. Sure. It was the contact and the emotional, like, how do I help these people through that? I was like, well, this is, I was going into psychology in college. I was like, oh, I'm using this a whole lot more in real estate. But yeah, I think at that point, I didn't know enough to say, what am I doing? In my head now, I call it step off the world. There are definitely days where I'm like, I just need to step off the world for a minute. It is very hard.
Yeah.
Very emotional, up and down.
Yeah.
It can be tough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So transaction closed. You got paid. I don't know at that time how much was the price, probably $200,000 or something.
It's about $160,000.
So commission was probably like around what, $5,000 or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. Okay, great. So now you got the money. You're like, okay, I can do this again.
Yeah.
All right. So how many homes have you sold at your first year in real estate?
I have no idea. No, I know so I went into real estate trying to make the ends meet. I wasn't trying to make $1 million. I was just trying to make sure we had extra cash for vacations and kids
Interesting.
going to baseball. And, because my husband was providing for us well. It was just that extra that I really wanted to have that. And my kids, I have 3 children. My oldest son and my second son were in school. My third daughter has Down syndrome. She was in all-day preschool. I knew that from now on, I needed to have flexibility in whatever career I chose because she would need me, and that would be a lifelong process. And so that was part of the motivation. I have family in real estate. It just seemed like it fit. And so it was more about the flexibility and the comfortability of real estate and people I could draw from that are not in the state, but have the experience. And then looking for a way to maximize my time.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's one of the great things about real estate is that flexibility, right? It's a blessing, but it also can be very tricky because you don't have that structure, you don't have that routine, you don't have that kind of like a 9-to-5 type of an obligation, right? When did you start kind of thinking like, okay, you know what, maybe I can do this more like a full-time thing, or maybe I can really truly like build a business out of it?
When I first took my test, I remember I was on the phone with a friend, and we had moved here from Wisconsin, and I was telling her what I was doing. And I said, I just hope I can make some money.
Yeah.
And she said, and sell some homes for people. And she said, I don't think you're going to have a problem being successful. I think the problem is going to be, are you too successful? Is it going to take too much of your time? And that's always stuck with me. First of all, it gave me a bolster of confidence, but it also reminded me, you got to remember what you're doing this for. Because it is, I'm a workaholic and I love it. I have a passion for it. Yeah. But I got to remember what is important in my life too.
Got it. So when you say you're workaholic, like kind of walk me through your day. Like how many hours, do you start early? Do you kind of start late? Do you work late? Like I remember myself, when I got into the real estate, I was probably working 70, 80 hours a week. I was working on weekends. I was working at night. I remember sitting at night, pushing out contracts and this and that, 8 and 9 o'clock in the evening. So is that kind of pretty much what you do, or you have like boundaries and balance?
Yeah, I don't know that I have boundaries. I have asked for Sundays to be my family's day. So I don't show homes. I still have to do paperwork on Sunday and emails and that kind of thing, but I try not to show homes on Sundays. And I don't have a lot of boundaries, but the reality is it's a passion for me, so I love it. Yeah. My son was joking with me about someday when I pass on and he has to give a eulogy, he's like, you have no hobbies. It's real estate.
This is what you do.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't even know what to put on your headstone. But so I get up at 5:40 every morning. And actually some of that is because our daughter goes to an adult program. And so she has to get ready every morning, to go to that program 3 days a week. And so we get up and first thing I do is check my emails and make sure there's nothing that's needed. Take care of her, but I have my phone at my side all the time. So I've told clients, everybody can decide how they do this differently as real estate agents, but I believe that if I'm going to get a call at 1 a.m. from a client, that they are very stressed and that they need me at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I don't get that very often. I have had calls at 11. I have had calls at 10:30. I'm going to take those calls because there is somebody on the other side who is feeling enough stress that they want to call me at that time. So I think it's important that my clients know that the communication, the line that we have is open. That's not going to be for everybody. It doesn't bother me. Now, I have had parents pass away. I've had in-laws pass away, and I've had to take calls shortly after that. And at least to initially let somebody know, hey, I've had an event in my family, that doesn't bother me. It's really about making sure that you remember on the other side, there is somebody who is going through one of their most emotional, financially important decisions. And I just never want to make light of that. It's huge. So I'm available however I can be. So 5:45 in the morning, and then it's pretty much all day.
All day long.
Yeah. Wow. Now there's days I don't have a lot to do.
Right,
There are days that are lighter than other days.
Sure.
I was telling my husband I don't need a Friday or a Saturday. Sometimes it's a Tuesday. You don't know what that day is going to be.
Right.
I can start a day out thinking I have nothing, and then my day is completely full by the end. I call it threading the needle, where I'm literally trying to get to each appointment on time. I'm a big believer on being on time. I do not like to be late.
Yeah.
So it depends on the day. Friday nights, I really look forward to my chicken noodle soup, which I put tons of crackers in. It's like a casserole, and Dateline. That's my Friday night, and I love it. My husband will sit with me, and but I don't get that every Friday night, but I get it a lot. So we all have our thing.
Sure, of course. I mean, that's your balance. I mean, that's what you enjoy doing it. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So going back to the referrals.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So most of your business coming from referrals.
Mm-hmm.
You started doing geofarming 4 years ago, and it takes time to develop geofarm, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, what are you doing when it comes to your referrals? I mean, how selling so many homes a year, over a year from referrals? What are you doing special? What are you doing different? If you just don't mind kind of sharing your marketing and how are you staying on top of mind when it comes to your past clients and
I
your
think some of it is, if you have somebody in your life that does a great job for you, you're not going to forget that person. Not just a good job, but a great job. And then they trickle in every once in a while, and you see them, and they're still doing a great job.
Yeah.
I think that is that has been the best thing for me. Is I think I have a little over 300 Zillow reviews. They're 5 stars. That's because we don't just do a good job. We do a great job in taking care of that client, listening to them, making sure that they know we want the outcome they want. It doesn't always happen, but that's the goal, is always, and they know that we work hard for that. I use this mantra I came up with called CANE, C-A-N-E, client care, and it's to communicate, advocate, navigate, and educate. Those 4 things are our commitment to our client every time. And we give our best when it comes to that CANE, client care. And it really does have to do with, they need to know that they are most important in our life at that time. So I don't do the surprise and delight and the Popeyes and all that stuff. I know those work, but I think what I bring to the table is I know what I'm doing. I never tell people, oh, I'm the best. I don't really like that. That's just not me. That's not my approach. But I do tell them nobody's better. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm the best, but I'm going to tell you nobody's better than I am.
Yeah.
And nobody cares more than I do. And it isn't just about care. You can care all day long. But if you don't know how to sell a house, if you don't know how to negotiate, if you don't know how to market, you can care as much as you want, but you got to get the job done.
Yeah.
And so I think bringing together that I do care about them, that they're truly important to me, and I know what I'm doing, and I can do that job.
Yeah.
I think together that makes me their go-to.
Right.
And that makes a difference.
Right. So that's ultimately the foundation of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's exceptional service that you provide.
Right.
Right. But then in addition to that, how do you stay on top of mind with them? Like, are they getting anything from you? How?
Yeah, they'll get their newsletters every
Newsletters,
month.
email,
We'll get
okay.
videos. If there's social media, I have a social media manager that helps keep me. I don't love doing social media, but I know it's important.
Yeah.
So she helps trickle that out there all the time. They get a couple of client appreciation events. We do the pies that everybody so often does.
During the Thanksgiving?
Right.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's nothing to do with the pie. And I tell them that. I know you're not coming here for a $10 or $15 pie.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're coming to connect.
Yeah.
And so the pie is just like, hey, thanks for connecting. But I want to see them. I love them. Mm-hmm. They are I'm like a mother bear with my clients, and I care very much about them. So that gives me an opportunity to talk with them, catch up, see how they're doing, and give them a pie,
How do you remember most of them?
Oh, I remember all of them.
How do you remember? I mean, is it just because of your like photographic memory? I mean,
I do have a very, very strong memory. If you can tell me about a house, I can actually see it in my head. But I don't know how I remember. I remember things about them. But I did learn. I was in Gary Keller, who's our over Keller Williams, has some masterminds for his his top agents. And I went back to Austin and attended one. And I was so, I don't want to say database shamed, but somebody had like 60,000 people in their database and somebody had 30,000 people in their database. I have about, I don't know, 1,200 people.
Yeah.
And some of them are couples. So maybe let's say 2,400. Yeah. So I was talking to my coach about that. And I was like, man, why don't I have that kind? But they pay for leads and they get those leads and they put them in a database. Yeah. And he said, but do you know every one of those people in your database? And I know everyone. And if I don't remember a name, tell me a little bit about them and I'll know exactly what they're doing. They matter. They matter so much to me. And I think it is, I think that's the difference, is they know they're not just a client, they are a person I care about. And that database doesn't just get full of random people. Those are people I have had connection to in one way or another.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Okay. So out of that 1,200 client database, right, how many transactions do you think you generate or close on a yearly basis?
Well, we know that we're about 87% referral based. So however that works out.
So that's about 87 transactions, 90 transactions.
On 100, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we are very much, I was talking to my assistant about that the other day, and she was like, our clients take such good care of us. And I said, that's because we take care of them. Mm-hmm. And they want to give our name to their friends. They want that. That is a reflection on them. So, and I also think, you talked about 2023 being a slower year. Mm-hmm. And I really did wonder why it was such a strong year for us. I think it's because there was a time when it didn't really matter who you were or your experience. You could sell a house. Yeah. Everything was selling.
Yeah.
I think in 2023, people stopped for a minute and said, I can't ask Uncle Joe to sell my house for him. I need somebody who's done this for a while.
Yeah.
So I think the experience has come into play that way.
So how do you compare the 2023 to 2008 or 9?
I compare it that they were hard. They're hard years.
Yeah.
They're completely different reasons for hard. Mm-hmm. I would never take a 2008 again, ever. It was painful and sad. 2023, it's affordability is a struggle. But if you've owned your home for 4 years, you've got equity. It's those who bought their home a year ago and then found they have to move. That's hard. That's not fun. Yeah. But even then, there's a little bit of equity. We're not in a free fall. I remember in 2007-ish, I remember standing in the driveway of a client. We had listed her home. And, before that, everything was selling. It was selling for a lot. And I said, Karen, it is like somebody turned the lights out. I don't know what happened, but it is like it's different. And it was like downhill from there. It was such a hard time. And I think we had 30 listings at one time, almost all short sales. It was brutal. And I remember my husband went with me because I had a referral and I hadn't met this person, and he gets real worried about me meeting people that I've never met. Yeah. So he sat with me in this listing appointment, and I sat across from this gentleman who had just found out he had throat cancer. He had a short time to live. He was going to move back east with his mother to try and for his remaining life, and he was losing his home. Never had missed a payment in his life, and he was going to lose his home. And of course I had a lump in my throat, but he needed me to be the business head. And so I was going through the process of what we're going to do. How are we going to navigate this? How are we going to get this done together? And I walked out and my husband said, how do you do that? I wanted to just break down and cry. And I said, because I have to. Somebody has to do this. And that, I'll never forget how hard that was. That whole time, people lost I have clients who bought homes last year who had not owned a home since 2008 because it was so hard for them that they lost a home.
Not because they couldn't afford.
They could absolutely afford it.
Yeah, it's just that memory of it, that pain.
PTSD type feeling. Yeah. They were throwing away rent every month because they did not want that feeling again. It was very real and very hard. I really believe we've already been in our difficult 2 years of real estate. I do believe we are coming out of it. I see it coming. Arizona has so much to offer. When you talk about people who have all that negative, there is so much positive here. We are a young state. We have so much growth still to come. I see nothing but positive.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we can stay focused on why people are coming here and why we can say with strong conviction, this is a great place to invest, we'll continue to have a great real estate career. I have no qualms telling somebody, buy here. This is a great place to live. I think we have to do that.
And the data is showing
Absolutely.
that, right? I mean, look what's going on around the valley. Look what's happening right off 303
Right.
and I-17.
So much economic growth.
Opportunity there, right?
So much.
There was a land sale around that, Taiwanese chip plant. I think they sold that land for about $40 or $50 million, 2,500 acres. What do you think they're going to do with it?
Oh, they are doing that.
Oh, they're building it out.
They're already working on it.
I actually right now working with one of our agents actually, and she most of her clients are employees of that chip plant right there.
Yeah.
And they're buying properties left and right, from 700 and up.
I had a gentleman 2 years ago who was one of the foremen or, of the building of the chip plant. And he came here and was going to be stationed here for 2 years.
Yep.
And he said to me when we were finding him a home, you have no idea how big this is.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten. I've got a couple of HR people from the chip plant, and it's going to be huge. But it's not just the chip plant; it's all the support around it.
Yeah. More businesses are talking about possibly even building an airport.
Air park,
Yeah. I mean, that's a possibility as well. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? I think you live in Peoria, right?
I do, and I actually got called by one of my friends who is running for an election, and he was asking me, "Hey, what do you think about this? Are we against it? Are we for it?" And I said, "It's not an airport, and we're not going to stop growth. We don't want to stop growth. What we want to do is manage that growth. We want to make sure it's done in the right way, not too fast, not too slow.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure we're looking at the big picture and then working around it and saying, okay, how does this impact our housing? Okay, well, let's make sure we have houses over this way and this way." So I said, it's not about stopping it. It's about making sure we're managing it. And I think that we have people in place that will manage it well, and their intentions, I'm sure, are good and will be fine. But the amount of housing and migration to the Northwest Valley is going to be massive. It's going to be massive. Same with Southeast Valley, down in Tempe and Queen Creek. They have halted the LG construction in one portion, but they have a lot of growth in that area.
Yep.
The 10, all the way out to Buckeye Goodyear area. Though it's exploding. This state, this county is going to be massive. And I know people don't all love that. There are people who are just like, stop the growth. And we don't,
tired of traffic.
We don't want to do it. And believe me, I've seen a huge amount of growth over 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
But it is, if it's managed right and it's done right, it can be a benefit to everybody. The diversity, the economic growth. When 2008 happened, I'm sure you already know this, but when 2008 happened, we had construction and we had hospitality. Those were our main source of job growth.
Yeah.
We have diversified so much that we have insulated ourselves to the point where we are able to handle a recession better than maybe a Houston who has gas and oil. So we are in a great position that if there is a landing, soft or hard, we're in a better position to handle it here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I remember back in 2008, and I think I shared with you before we started this. I mean, I own a limo business and, hospitality, because we're connected to the hotels and resorts and all of that stuff. And when everything just stopped, our business pretty much stopped. Our business literally within 6 months, I think went down by as much as 60 to 70%.
Yeah.
I mean, we lost so much revenue and so much opportunity. We had to let go a bunch of people. So that PTSD for me stayed for about 5-6 years. I just, they don't want to buy. I don't want to touch anything.
What if you didn't have it and then you went to COVID? You would really you would have it again if you went through COVID.
100%. As a matter of fact, I was on a podcast yesterday, and the hosts were asking me about, the perseverance and resiliency and everything like that. So, I don't know if you know my backstory, but I came to this country 33 years ago. I was a refugee from former Soviet Union. Nice. I mean, we end up in New York City. The reason we ended up in New York City is because my dad's aunt, she was our sponsor, and she basically took us under her wings, right? Didn't know any English, $500 in our pockets, like a family of five, my parents and two of my siblings. Went to school as a 13-year-old. And during that stage, when you're a 13-year-old going to school, I mean, the kids can be pretty cruel and pretty harsh, right? So I was getting picked on left and right. I remember one day I showed up in school, had a stick of deodorant on my desk. You know, it was painful at times.
Sorry.
At the same time, I needed money. We needed money as a family, so I had to go and work. And I remember my first job, I was outside of the shopping mall, handing out flyers until like 9, 10 o'clock in the evening for $1.50 an hour. That's what I did.
Wow.
We had to survive. We had to overcome, you know. And, you know, since that point on, I always worked. Like even through college years, you know, I only went to college for a year and a half and then realized college was not for me. But it's a different story.
Yeah.
I always worked, you know. And then when 2008-9 happened and I lost everything, was $500,000 in debt. My wife was pregnant with our second child. I mean, it like edged in my memory. And but then again, it was a blessing in disguise because that hardened me to the point where in 2013, when I got my real estate license, the first 6 months, I didn't close any deals. Yeah. I probably selected one of the most difficult lead sources that are out there, which is cold calling expireds and canceled. And I was just getting rejected left and right. On top of that, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So I was stressing about that. And 3 kids under the age of 5. Daycare bill alone was like $2,100 a month. It was a very stressful period of time. Not making any money was tough. And then I started having symptoms, health issues, and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease. And I don't know how much you know about that.
I know enough.
Oh, and I remember the days when I would get on these listing appointments. I'm driving to the listing appointment. Instead of thinking about that listing appointment, I was thinking, all right, when I get there, like, how do I ask them if I can use their bathroom?
Yeah.
You know, and that was with me for about 3 years, until like 2015, 2016. But again, blessing in disguise, because it hardened me when I started my brokerage 2020, a month and a half before the COVID shutdown. So I started in January. Perfect timing. And then look what happened in March. And I had some agents that would come in tears. They're like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I'm going to get a job. I need an advance. I got this. I need that. But honestly, like, I probably felt like crap for about a day or two. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to be back in the office. My staff was working from home. The agents were working from home. But I was here and I was just pushing through. And I felt like whatever happened to me in 2008, whatever happened to me back in 1990 as a refugee, whatever happened to me in 2013, made me so much more immune, I guess,
to and resilient.
To all the stuff that was really happening in 2020. Even in 2023, where I speak to the brokerage owners, they were like panicking in a panic mode. I was like, okay, all right, we'll figure this out. We'll make this work.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what we have to do.
There was somebody who was saying, and I do believe, if you got your license in anywhere between 2022 and 2024, I can't remember where I heard it, but they were saying they have the ability to grow in concrete. So in other words, all of us who had it, you know, the people who have only had it maybe 8 or 9 years, they only know a seller's market. They only know a good market.
Yeah.
So they got real, you know, comfortable. Yeah. And yet the people who got their license in the last few years, they don't know anything but hard.
No.
And that will actually serve them well in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, and you were exactly the same way, I really truly believe real estate is the best vehicle to be in. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's the vehicle that can help you to build long-lasting relationships, like in your situation, get you in front of so many different opportunities. Obviously, financial gains, financial benefits, the flexibility. There's no cap. There's no ceiling. Like, there's just so many ways you can really help people and help yourself and your family and build a legacy if you are really, truly, genuinely committed to this. Like, if
for the right reasons, because I remember
helping people.
Exactly.
Yes.
I have a gentleman who is my dentist, and he asked me to help him find a home, and we went and found him a home, and it was great. And I sold his home, and he told me a story where he first came to Arizona and he got in the car with the realtor and he said there was a Post-it note. And on the Post-it note had each of the homes, there were like 3 homes. They had the price of the home and then the commission under that home. And he said, I will never forget what I felt like when I saw that all he cared about was the price of the home and the commission.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even remember the guy's name. But to me, from the very first moment I got my license, I said, if this ever becomes about money, I'm out.
You're out.
I'm not doing
exactly.
it.
Yeah. You. It's all about the value.
Yeah.
And we're talking about high value. As long as you lead with high value, the higher value, all right, the money is going to come.
Right.
The money is the byproduct.
Yeah.
Is always the byproduct. But if you're leading with money, if you're leading with commissions, if you're leading with transaction, you're not going to last long.
Absolutely.
Because there are going to be hard times and there are going to be challenges and you're not going to be able to overcome those challenges because you're going to be thinking about the other opportunity, other money-making, a business, whatever it is that you're going to be doing.
And I call it transactional realtor and relationship realtor. And the transaction realtor, they can churn transactions and they may be one and dones and maybe they do investment properties. I don't know what they do, but that is not longevity. The relationship realtor is longevity.
Well, you're a testament to it. I mean, if you think about it, like over 80% of your business is coming from your referrals. I mean, that means that you did a great job of building that foundation. And that's awesome. So let's transition to, you said about 4 years ago, your husband suggested that you guys start geofarming, right? So I used to do geofarming for about 4 years. I started doing it after year number 3. I loved it, but there were also days and weeks where I hated it. Because I was just not getting any type of returns, right? Tell me kind of like what you guys are doing, where you guys are doing it, and what kind of returns are you getting from it?
So my husband had worked for American Express for over 20 years. He's an accountant and the information systems accountant. And so he took his skills and his business background and said, why aren't you farming in the neighborhood you live in? You have an incentive. You live here. You know this place. And so that's where we farm, is the neighborhood I live in. And we are, we're consistent. It's different. It's unique. It's not recipes because I don't cook. That's so hypocritical. I don't even touch a stove. So it's just information. It's housing information. I believe each farming item we do have Zillow reviews or, there's things that we do on that each time to support who I am. But we send that out anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. We send that out every single time. And I put in there the homes that I've listed and the homes that I've sold in that neighborhood. It is only about that neighborhood.
Yeah, so purely educational. With some call to action.
Call to action, reinforcement of who I am and how I belong there. And there are times I always put 8 houses. That's all I put in there. And I note, because in order to stay compliant, I note which houses I list or which houses I bring the buyer or which houses I do both. And then I don't take credit for the homes I don't do or don't sell. But there are times it's all me. All 8 of those homes are mine. And so, it does reinforce for that neighborhood that I do a lot of business in that neighborhood. There is nobody who knows that neighborhood better than I do. And I was the second home in that neighborhood when it was very first developed, 15 years ago. So, and it's been in phases and it's been over time.
How many homes in your neighborhood now?
I think it is 1,500 now.
1,500. And what is your market share?
I would look, but I think we're pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say we're probably 60%.
So 60% of listings
or buyers,
buyers
transactions
go through you. That's insane.
And even beyond that, I have people who will call me who are listed with somebody else and say, hey, can you help me? Why isn't this selling? And of course, I always support that realtor. I'm not going to throw any realtor under the bus.
Sure, of course.
But it's interesting that they would call me and ask me for some back support, and I'll tell them your agent's doing what they need to do. Maybe ask them to change out a couple of pictures.
Homeowners are calling you.
Yes.
Oh,
which is because they get my, I always say, if you're working with an agent, don't call me, but they get it and they'll call. Or they'll call in and I'll interview with them and then they'll say, well, my best friend, whatever. And I'm like, that's okay. Do what you need to do. But, I've been in every floor plan. I know every home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It helps.
So how often are you sending out these mailers?
It's between 5. It used to be every 4 weeks, and it was just like I felt like it was so often that they were probably getting a little annoyed. So I made it about every 5 to 6 weeks. So it's just a little trailing.
So once every 5 to 6 weeks. That's it? Wow. Okay. Are you holding any open houses in your neighborhood?
I don't, but we do have open houses.
You have agents that are doing it. Got it.
Yeah.
And you got 60% market share.
Yeah. Now I will tell you that we have a really slick flyer. You know, we and it's always the same. And there'll be people who say, "Why don't you switch it up?" I want it to be familiar. I want it to be exactly the same format every time. I've sat at listing appointments where somebody has pulled out 6 or 7 of those and said, "Look, I know you did these, and what about this house?" They're just collecting them for the time that they're ready to buy. So I might not be top of mind today for them because they don't care about selling.
Yeah.
But they will think of me when it comes time, even if they don't call me.
Yeah. I remember those days back in 2016, 17, 18. I was farming Arrowhead Lakes as well as Arrowhead Ranch. And I remember I used to go on a listing appointments and they would just have but I used to like send them something once a week.
Oh, wow.
The big ones.
Yeah.
With call to action.
Them?
I mailed them. Yeah. So they used to have like a stack of them on their kitchen table.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we've been getting your stuff and everything like that. So, but those are the best ones because, you know, they've already been pre-sold. You know, they kind of know you, they see your team at action with open houses and all of that. So it's more about like, just building a rapport, making connection with them.
Sign, like in my neighborhood, they'll see my sign. So there's other ways, I support the schools and, so there's other ways that I see.
I see your signs. I think Liberty.
Yeah. Liberty and Sunrise.
Sunrise got it.
Yeah. So we love our schools. My kids I had kids go to both. And so I've been around for a long time and we support them all, but yeah.
I love it. Very good. So what systems are you currently using, your team is using to keep you on track and, streamline your business and your processes? Like what CRM you guys are using? What type of tech?
We have, Keller Williams has Command, which is a system that keeps us on track for our transactions. But we do have one that somebody had built it for us, and it's called Easy Agent. And I think that's what it's called. I don't get into it. My husband does all that, but it's what we use to email and communicate with our farm. Our database. But and that's once a month. We send something out. We'll send like the Cromford Report, or we'll.
Yeah.
I have a company called Viral Marketing that does videos for me, and they'll send out some of the those videos, and then they'll do a write up on different topics, whatever they think is appropriate. So there's different ways that we trickle stuff out from that standpoint, but the systems itself, I always make sure I wish a happy birthday. I will make sure I make that direct call for birthdays to my clients. It's a way for once a year that I'm calling them on their day, and they'll remember it because it's their day. And so I do that. That's important to me, and I think it's important to them.
Do you send them a gift?
No.
Just
no, I'm not a gift. I just think that I want to be the professional. I want to be a friend always, but that's a separate relationship than the professional. And so when I step into the professional role, I try and keep that very professional. And I love them, but I try and keep it very, business. And so I don't send them a gift, but except the gift of love. So, and then, so that's a big deal to me, those birthdays. And then, of course, I try to keep in front of them. If I'm thinking of a client, anybody at any time, I send them a text right then. Wow. So if I the other day I was thinking of a client, I have no reason to, I just sent a note and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about you today. I hope everything's well." That to me is true. It's honest.
Genuine. Yeah. It's real.
And so I try to keep them top of mind more than me being their top of mind.
Got it. So the systems are doing their thing. Your husband's pretty much in charge of it, right? And you get reminded on all the birthdays, and probably calling 4 or 5 people a day right now, wishing them happy birthdays.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then we have a morning meeting every morning at 8, and it's a phone call. We go through what's closing this week, what do we need to do, what concerns are there, and that's every day. It's a live meeting on Tuesdays, But every other day, it's a phone call so that all three of us are in touch with what's needed. Does somebody need flyers at their home? Is there brochures needed? Whatever it is, we talk about it right then. It's usually about a half hour at the most.
Okay, and that's you, that's your husband,
And
who's
Sherry,
director of
my
operations,
assistant.
and Sherry, who's your assistant. Now, do you guys work from the office, or you kind of
We have our own offices. Yeah.
You do have your own office.
My husband and I have a completely separate office, different areas of the home. And there are days I hardly even see him. I mean, he's busy doing all the work he does, and then I'm busy doing my work. So
How does it work out? I mean, like my wife, she's an accountant.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so she works from home right now. She used to work for KPMG for 20 years.
She was with Ernst & Young.
She, I think, started her accounting career with American Express back in New York.
Nice.
But I don't know. I don't know. I cannot see myself working with my wife. Not that we don't get along. We get along. I mean, we're like opposite personalities, right? But from morning to evening, I'm pretty much in the office, right? And then, we catch up in the evenings, right? And then, of course, on the weekends.
Yeah.
In your situation, it's 24/7.
Yeah. I will tell you that in some ways that has been really good. You could not get a more opposite person than me with Stephen. He is an introvert. He doesn't want to be on any promotional, he doesn't want to be in front of anybody. He just wants to do his work. He's a hard worker. And he's just very much a straight shooter. And so I wondered about that. I was a little worried, not that I wouldn't love it, but would he, would it be miserable for him coming from corporate and very much in his little niche? But what I have found is, first of all, we all try to stay in our lanes. We try not to cross over into each other's lanes, which is important. That can cause friction if that doesn't happen. But what I have found is some days, this, are so heavy and frustrating, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk to I don't want to even think about it when I'm talking to him. I don't need to, because he knows what's happening. And that has been really good for me.
I see.
That he is in this with me. We are building this together. And before, it was like she's on the phone all the time. My kids, I've got a son who went to medical school and he's a doctor. He didn't want to be a real estate agent. He'd rather be a doctor and go to all that school, because this is not a life he wants in his life. And my second son works with USAA, and same thing. He worked with me for a while. I don't know if someday he will, but right now he's like, I don't want anything to do with that life. So I think it was a negative for a long time. My kids thought my life was constantly working. So it's been helpful for my husband to see that we are building this together, and it's taken some of that away. Some of that, why is she on the phone, or what, So I think it's been good. Yeah. He's quit 10 times a day sometimes, but.
Really?
Look, I'm done. I'm just gonna retire, but because obviously we get frustrated. But overall, he's just got amazing.
You work it.
And his skills, his business skill, that's not my strength.
Complement your skills. Okay.
So
and then Sherry, she's the one who's your assistant. I mean, what else does she do?
She is such an incredible help to us she manages my schedule. She keeps me on track, which is really important, because sometimes I'll be double booking myself. I don't even know it. And she'll be like, you have something here. She does all our TC work. She makes sure everything flows through the office. She takes care of our trades. We're full service, so we take care of people's, with their Binzer needs. We don't do it, but we give them the trades and we say you can use them.
Gotcha.
And she's managing all that. She does the solar. I mean, that's just so hard. And she knows the solar side of things so well. And then she does the interaction with setting up appointments for inspections and walkthroughs. And so she really does handle all the stuff. And she's licensed. She can go spill over. If I can't open a door, she can open a door.
Yeah.
So it's been really a good relationship. She's been very complimentary to our team.
So you keep it very small, very tight. Very tight. And Sherry, been with you, what, for 8 years?
She would be better at this, but 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years, right? And obviously your husband's been with you for quite some time, 4 years, right? So why not, and I have to ask this question, is I'm sure you had maybe urges or temptations to maybe kind of grow and scale and expand, have team of agents, buyers agents. Have Have you considered that? Have you done it in the past?
No, I haven't. And have I considered it? I've considered a showing agent because that's hard to manage my time that way.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if I wasn't able to be working with the clients, this isn't fun to me. I'm not trying to manage people.
Interesting.
I want to be with my clients.
So you enjoy working with clients.
It's my
You don't want to
people.
be overseeing and managing people.
And I get it. There are people who are coaches and there are people who are, do all these, they just love that. I just want to be with my people and I want to help them buy and sell houses. So it's not my dream to have a team and then manage them or find referrals or find leads for them. That to me feels so much pressure. I'm like, I don't want to come up with all that. So
What about those days when, let's say, for example, you want to take a vacation or two, for a week or week and a half, 2 weeks, and you're like, I just don't want to deal.
I don't take 2-week vacations, but yeah.
But you know
I
what I'm
can take
talking
a
about?
week, yeah.
Because every time I remember before I had a team, right? Every time I would take a vacation, and that would have many vacations, I just would be filled with so much anxiety, internal anxiety, because every time I would go somewhere, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting phone calls from my clients, from the leads, prospects, and everything like that. It's like I should be taking more vacations, right? But and I know you enjoy what you're doing, and I admire that. I respect that so much. But there are times also where you want to kind of like I don't know, just to kind of decompress, maybe just kind of go away for a week or two, and
I
don't know.
I am able to compartmentalize a lot more than maybe some people, but I do like to get away. I don't think there's a such thing as getting away when you're a solo agent.
Yeah.
But I will say with Sherry having her license, we always do our best to make sure one is always here. So we will coordinate with each other and she'll say, hey, I want to go at this time. Are you going to be here? So, and then I prep every client to know, hey, I'm not here. Sherry's here. We'll make sure you're taken care of. I'm FaceTime. I'm a phone call away. I do accept the fact that we agents don't always get vacations without interruption.
Yeah.
When my first assistant had left after '08, and it was just too much, and it was very difficult for her, my husband and I went on a cruise to Hawaii, and it was a long time ago, and it was better. There wasn't as much internet access on those cruises, and I literally woke up with hives all over me, and I didn't know why. And I really believe it was because it was 2010. It was a difficult time, and I think it was pure stress. And I did have some access at that time, but it was literally, I can't leave these people to hang out and dry. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I never, having a licensed assistant there's no other way for me.
Yeah.
And having somebody who's very effective and
good at what they do.
Loves the clients like I do, and it takes on the Kane client care mantra.
Yeah.
I feel safe with that. I don't feel comfortable leaving long lengths of time, but I feel safe leaving for short periods of time.
100%. There's that book out there, highly recommended to the entrepreneurs and business owners, called Who Not How. And it's all about the fact that we as business owners, entrepreneurs, wire to try to do everything ourselves, but we're not good at everything, right? And at times we're our biggest bottleneck.
Yeah.
So just focus on your core competencies, and then the rest of it, find who.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember my second year in real estate, I think I closed 35 or 36 transactions, and I was doing everything. And I was sitting 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening and, pushing out paperwork. And the kids, they're all little ones, and trying to get my attention. My wife's trying to get my attention. And I'm sitting there and doing the paperwork. And I was like, what am I doing this? Yeah. Why am I doing this? I'm making pretty good money. Why not hire somebody? So hired my first assistant. She didn't work out. She wanted part-time, but her definition of part-time was 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
She didn't want to work.
Not going to happen.
The second assistant, she was a sweetheart. She was great. But every time she would have an overbearing client or an agent that says, I've been in business for 30 years, she would kind of get flustered, right? So finally, my third one was the right hire. And we went from 35 deals to 75 deals.
Nice.
The next year, with me doing less work, because she was able to handle a lot of back office stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a huge believer in having the right
for sure.
assistant, the right help. Same thing with the brokerage. There's no way we would be able to grow our brokerage in the last 4 years if I would not have the right people
Right.
on the bus. So
Right.
there's no way I can do everything
Right.
myself.
Right.
So you lost that assistant back in 2008, and you mentioned to me that for almost like 8 or 9 years you had that PTSD thing
Yeah.
where
I just couldn't do it.
It was you.
Yeah.
It was you.
Yeah.
How? I mean, it was like.
And my kids weren't little. I mean, they were in school and, so I had the days available to me, but I just didn't care. I was not going to go through
And you were
that
doing
again.
all that paperwork yourself, like everything yourself.
Yeah. And it was, in some ways, I liked it because I had control and I felt like I know I'm going to get this done. It was only until I realized what happened was I don't remember the numbers, but I had done a lot more one year, and the next year it came down. And when I saw that, I said, okay, something's wrong. I should never go down in production. And that's when I actually handpicked Sherry. She didn't have a license. I just knew she was a doer. I knew she would get the job done. I knew she would take it on right away. She'd been an architect. She had worked for an architect. She had worked for a lender. So she had some background. Our sons were best friends. That's, our connection was our sons.
Yeah.
And I called her and said, hey, as she had called me a couple of weeks before and said, hey, if you ever hear anybody looking for a job, I'm open. And that just kept running through my mind. And I called her and said, hey, can we sit down and talk about maybe, would you consider real estate? And she's like, sure. She had her license in, it was probably 3 weeks. She really
pulled wanted
it through.
Yeah, she really wanted it.
And it was just hit the ground running. And I knew that it was the right move for us. It really did help.
And she had no experience in real estate.
Not specifically. She had
right.
the surrounding experience, but not specifically.
Right. Yeah. And how long it took her to kind of like get it going and you felt more comfortable?
So good she's so motivated in being good at what she does that she really jumped in fast. And anything I did, she'd be like, I'll take that. I'll take that. And I mean, I know the value in having somebody who is everybody replaceable? Sure. We're all replaceable. But I know the value in finding the person that knows what to do and stays in that lane. And there were times I had to say, hey, you have a license, but you've got to be careful. You're not on the contract. And I don't want you to have liability. So we can't have you negotiate. We can't have you give advice. And she knows that. But at first it was hard to figure out those boundaries. And so she's been with me for a long time, and she knows. She'll say, "Hey, that's a Rebecca question," and she knows that that's her cue.
Got it. So, what do you say right now? Would be or is like the biggest constraint in your business, the number one constraint in your
business?
Our
time. I think to be at the level that you're at, and it's buying agent. It's trying to find homes for people, and I'm out there looking at all these homes, and I can't be doing the work over here. So I would say it's probably my time being spent with buyers, which I love them, but I just don't have the kind of time I used to. And Sherry is great to say, hey, let me take on some of that. And she will, and I know she will. So it's been helpful, and we can do it. But I don't know how that's all going to shake out either. And so I don't want to do anything until I know what's going to happen with NAR, what's going to happen with our buyers. And I don't expect there to be a lot of change, but I don't know that yet. So I probably will have to do something in the next 6 months to get back some of my time. But that's probably my number one right now. It's not that we don't have enough work, because we do, knock on wood, and I'm so grateful. So grateful. But it has been a harder year this year. I don't know if everybody else is feeling that, but I still had the business last year. Builders were doing a lot of incentives and we had a lot of that option. And this year it's like fatigue. They're just like, I'm waiting, I'm not doing it. So it's been harder this year. We've really had to fight for our buyers on our listings. They're still selling, but it's a battle out there.
Got it. So what would that look like then? Let's say, for example, things are shake out, in our favor, right? And things are pretty much going to be the same, right? Commissions are still being paid. Would that mean that you're going to be looking for like a showing agent, maybe more of like a full-time buyer's agent?
Probably not a full-time buyer's agent. Probably initially either a second assistant or a full-time showing agent.
Right. So
I
basically,
still want to be involved in that deal.
right.
So if they can open the doors, then I can follow up. And-
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. I remember my fourth year when I started thinking about building a team, I had 4 showing assistants at any given time,
Wow.
one on each side of town.
Oh, that's nice. Good.
Because I was very heavy into listings, like 80% of my
Yeah.
productions are listings. So I felt like I enjoy working with buyers, but I just did not enjoy driving all the way to AJ
Yeah.
or Chandler or Mesa, So
That's when it gets hard. I mean, we just don't have the hour of
if
time.
it's around this area,
All day long.
all day long, right? But I mean, if you're going to be driving all the way to Buckeye, right? Or you're going to be driving all the way to like Gilbert and I love Gilbert. I mean,
Me
nothing
too. I've done them in Santana.
Gilbert.
I've gone to
Exactly.
Maricopa. You go where you go.
Yeah, it's just the time piece of it, right? And that's ultimately the most important thing is the time / energy,
Right.
right? You cannot bring it back.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right, awesome. So I guess, what does it look like for you 5 years down the road? We're I mean, you've been doing this for 22 years, and you're not slowing down.
No.
You're ascending. You got a great core. Like your husband is in charge of ops. Sherry, she's your right-hand person. What does it look like for Rebecca like 5 years down the road?
If somebody asked me 5 years ago, I might have had a different answer. It's pretty much the same. It's just getting stronger and more efficient.
Yeah.
But I do think that we are at the point where we're going to have to bring somebody else to help us out. Sherry can't shoulder everything, all the admin, all the TC, whether that's a TC that's just, paid per transaction, but just helping her have more time so that she can help me have more time. I think that makes sense. It's that we have such a great tight shipping run that it's to mess that up that's the concern.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Sherry multiple times. Do you need a second assistant? Do you need a TC? And she's like, yeah, but I'll just do it myself, And so she's similar to me that way, that it's just, I know it'll get done. Let's get it done, and she's my age. We don't have little kids at home. And so it makes it a little easier. Family life balance is a little easier when your kids are older. I've still been there when they were little, and I know how hard it is, but it does get a little easier as they get older. So I don't know in 5 years.
Yeah.
I suspect that we will be similar with maybe 1 or 2 people supporting us, but I don't anticipate not being a solo.
So you're still selling real estate 5 years from now?
Oh, absolutely.
You are?
Yeah, I'd be shocked if I wasn't. 10 years from now, then I'm 66. That I don't know. I don't know 10 years. My son thinks I'll never quit.
I don't think you're ever going to quit. I don't think you're ever going to quit. I think you're a lifer.
Yeah. Well, and if I love it like this, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in addition to like real estate, obviously income is great and everything like that. What else are you doing? Are you investing in real estate?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think every agent should invest in real estate. We got to show what we believe in.
What does it look like for you? Is it long-term rentals? Is it commercial? Is it short-term rentals?
It's long-term rentals. I've got 1 short-term rental that I have nothing to. I'm just a silent partner.
Sure.
It's a family member, and they do it all.
Yep.
But we've got Stephen knows all those numbers on our rentals. I think it's 7 rentals. We're not looking to have a huge amount of rentals. We're looking for our retirement. So we pay those off, and then it is income for us.
Sure.
If something were to happen to me, or if the business was to change. So that is our goal right now. It was important to him that we own our home. I felt like we have a low interest rate. Why not just use this money and buy more homes?
Yeah,
And
of course.
he, being the accountant, and he's very conservative, and so we just pay things off, and that makes our net proceeds greater. And the goal is, we're both getting older, so the goal now is to make sure that we have paid free rentals, and that they're long term, and we take care of them, and we've got some great tenants so far, so it's been good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, some of those I bought in 2011, 2012, but I bought 2 in the last year. So if people don't think this isn't a great time to buy, I believe they are completely wrong. And I had to buy those at investor rates. So we're talking about 8
High.
7%. But I believe in Arizona. I bought 1 in Mesa, East Mesa, and I bought 1 in Surprise, Northwest Surprise. Totally different areas. And the growth that I think is coming to all those areas, I don't just say it. I stand by it, and I purchase a house.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of that. I think we're going to all kick ourselves if we don't buy a house right now because the competition, when those rates come down, is going to soar and those prices will go up.
So you're foreseeing, and again, I know it's at this point speculation. I mean, I was thinking that the rates, because of the election season,
Yeah.
I was thinking all along in the beginning of the year that the rates are going to dip.
Of course.
Right. I mean, well,
It's
I
like
was
the kid saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
yeah.
It's just constant.
And then it's just like, nope, we're like at 7%, we're hovering over,
but
so
you know it's got to come. It doesn't stay the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's
It
the
won't.
case.
It never
You won't.
has.
Right. So you're saying you're thinking like as they start coming down, you're going to have like a floodgates, right?
The
You're going to
data
have buyers.
says 6.25. There was a surge.
6.25.
In the last year, 6.25, according to Cromford, was where we saw an increase in it. People jumped off the fence.
Gotcha.
They've been hanging out at 7 so long. I believe 6.5, 6.25. People are going to get excited and they're going to hurry and capture the rate. You get 5.99, all bets are off. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're far because it's under 7 right now. If you got a good loan and you got a good credit, you can get a loan for under 7 right now.
Yeah, and if you have some buy downs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Or you're putting more than 20% down.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of ways to get under that 7.
Yep.
Now if we get to 6.5, 6.25,
Yep.
what happens? All those people, because that pent up demand is very real. I've got clients myself who won't touch it until it's lower. So they jump off, they start buying, inventory gets eaten up, and now we're competing, and now we're in a seller's market.
Yeah. So we're right now kind of like in a balanced market.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah,
like
we are.
We're at 18,500 homes.
We are
We're in a balanced market, right? So the average days in the market right now probably is a little bit or 2 months, somewhere
right.
there.
We have almost 3 months supply right now.
Right. So what do you do? And let's just go a little bit more tactical, I guess. You've been listing homes for many, many years. I mean, at any given time, you probably have how many listings? 6,
20.
7, 8?
Yeah.
How
I think
many?
we have 20, 19, or maybe it's 17 right now.
17 listings, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do with those listings where they're sitting on a market, and yes, you're getting showings here and there, but you're not getting any offers on them. That kind of, it's overpriced,
Or it's seasonal. I've got a few retirement communities. It's going to just be taking a hit.
It's going to take some time, right? So how do you have those conversations with your clients? And what do you say to your clients, the ones that are actually like, I don't want to be lowering my price. I really want to get this down number and all of that. So how do you go about it? What is your approach?
It's so important we set expectation.
Yeah.
So I tell every client, we get to decide what we market your house at. We get to decide what you think it's worth. The market is going to tell you what it's worth. We don't decide that. You can say no. You can say no to the market if they offer you $50,000 less, but they're telling you what that home is worth to them. So you get to decide what you do with it. But no buyer, I don't care if they're from California, if I hear that one more time, well, they're coming from California and they've got cash. No buyer's going to go, you know what? I want to put your kid through school. They don't care why you need that money.
Yeah.
They want a good deal too.
Yeah.
So my job is to tell you the truth. So when I sit down with a seller, I tell them, listen, this is between us. I'm going to give you the real facts. What we do out there on the MLS, I'll stand behind you. I'll fight for it. But you need to know the truth. And I give them a high, medium, and low of what my expectation would be. And as I do that, and I write it down, and I write it on their paperwork, because I tell them, this is what you can expect. If we get better, I'll fight for better. That's awesome if we get better. Yeah. But this is what the data is telling me.
Yeah. So you're pretty much saying, if you want me to lie to you and just list a house,
not going to do that. I'm never going to do that.
Right.
They've got the wrong agent.
They got the wrong agent.
Yeah.
So what happens in those situations? We're like, oh, you know what? I spoke to John across the street. He's an agent neighbor of mine, and he said I can list it for $800,000. You're like, absolutely not. It's like $750 at best. Like, what do you do in this situation?
I tell him, I'm not going to say anything disparaging about Mr. John, but data is data. There is a story in the numbers. I can't lie. I'm not looking at what the desirability is, because we might be able to sell it for the high because somebody's mother lives next door and they want that house. But I have to also look at the appraisal.
Yeah.
That isn't a buyer or a seller's choice. It has to appraise. And if we have to go to a hurdle of appraisal and it doesn't appraise, you can bet that buyer is not only going to want to go lower, but they're going to feel like now they overpaid for a house. They're not going to do it. They're probably going to walk if we're not going to agree. Mm-hmm. So I always approach it from the appraiser has the same comps as I do. Mr. John over here has the same comps as I do. He might want you to get 800, so do I. But we've got to work within the boundaries of the comps, the market, and what an appraiser is going to say.
Got it. Would you walk away from a listing where you have a seller that is like, you know what? No, you would take that listing?
I take the listing because I tell them, as long as you know the truth, I'm okay putting your house 50,000 over.
Got it.
But the reality is this. And now in those cases, I will have them pay a retainer for the photographer because it may not close. And I'm not going to pay for a photographer. I'm not going to pay $500 just to get to day one when we know it's not going to sell for that price.
So you would,
now, it would be gone if they sell it.
Yeah. So you would ask for it, or you would like require it?
I would. This is new for us because I have never done that. But we have determined that I don't mind selling a house overpriced. I don't mind listing it overpriced.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't want to pay to list your house overpriced.
Of course. Yeah.
But if you sell it, that'll be incorporated in the cost.
Yeah.
So so we are talking about between $375 and $500 cost.
Yeah. What about commissions, right? I mean, that's another thing. Where and I know commission compression has been going on for the last 2-3 years and everything like that. And sellers are becoming more and more emboldened, especially during the seller's market, right? They're not seeing as much as value working with an agent. And I got agents that are like, what do I do in this situation? Or working with for sale by owner, or working with somebody who's like, don't want to really pay 3% or whatever it is. And like, how do you tackle those type of objections? How do you handle them with someone, let's say, that is, they're educated, they have seen stuff on the news, they feel like they can pay nothing or as little as nothing, when it comes to these commissions.
And
like,
but they don't. But I'm not their agent.
You're not their agent.
Yeah,
right.
They can pay whatever they want. If I can't give them the value of why I have the professional fee that I have, then shame on me, But if I've got a gentleman who came right at me and said, "Listen, I know what I'm doing. He's in the legal field. I know how to handle this. Yeah. And I'm not going to pay you more than this amount."
Gotcha.
I said, "That's okay. I don't have to take that amount. I appreciate that that's where you're at."
So you declined his business.
He actually agreed.
Oh, he agreed?
Yeah, because the reality is they want to see how low they get, just like anybody negotiating.
Yeah.
And the reality, too, is I know I'm the one who can get his home sold if it's going to get sold.
Yeah.
And he came to me after being on the market with someone else. So I appreciate not being in a position where I'm so hungry that I have to take everything, but I will do my best and I will be as good. I don't like to say better, but no one's going to be better than me when it comes to negotiating, marketing, and caring about what you want in the outcome.
Yeah.
So if that's important to you, then I'll do my very best to get you the highest price that helps absorb some of those costs.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get somebody off the street or somebody who does these flat fees or whatever they're not going to care about you or work as hard to get you the deal that you're looking for, and maybe not have the experience and the negotiation skills to get you what you're looking for as maybe I do.
Yeah. So would you walk away from the situation?
I walked away from people who absolutely will not go above.
Gotcha.
Because I have people I have to pay too. I don't love that I have to have a certain amount. There are situations where, depending on what's happening, I understand they've got 4 houses they want to sell. They want a deal. Okay.
So there's going to be some flexibility there, right?
Yeah.
Right. But
I'm not hardcore. Right. Everything's negotiable.
But let's say, for example, and you're seasoned agents and you've been doing this for some time, right? And like you said, financially, really not in need, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if let's say it's a brand new agent or up and coming agent and they really, really, truly need this, right? I mean, what would you say to that agent?
I'd say take it.
Take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not about the money. It's about the experience and it's about the exposure.
Yeah.
You are, something's better than nothing.
100%.
And you are getting experience and you are going to say, I even told somebody the other day who was going to get her license and I said, go be a TC for a year, 2 years. Yep. And then you're able to say, I have been in the real estate field for 2 years as opposed to, and you've learned the contract and the process.
The entire process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to go into somebody and say, I've never done a deal before, you're not going to get the deal. You're not going to get it. But go do this roundabout way of learning and then use the phrase, I have been in the real estate field. And then you're able to, use that as leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell this to my agents all the time. We all have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And I remember like my early years, I would focus on expireds, cancels for sale by owners, and for sale by owners are notorious for paying as little as possible. And I remember one of them comes to mind, and I have a few of them, but Chuck and Pixie Zagarigo, I listed their house for sale by owner. He didn't want to pay the commissions that we were set, but ultimately we agreed on discounted commission.
Yeah.
And I took that for the experience purposes, and I also felt like I would be the best agent to really get the job done. And not only they sold that house with me and didn't make that much of a commission, but they bought a house with me that was full commission. Then they referred me their daughter.
Yes.
They referred me their grandson. They sold it. So one transaction turned into like 11 transactions in the past 11 years, right?
The best deals you've
And
had.
all of them were like almost full commission,
Yeah.
right? So like the way I look at it is like it's okay to take a haircut,
Yeah.
especially early stages of your career, your business,
Right.
but do a great job, like you say, you know, and they're going to remember you and they're going to refer more business to you.
Well, and I remember when I was trying to get in the luxury market, and I have a lot of luxury homes, and I remember a friend of mine who, and I'd been selling homes for quite a while, maybe 8 or 9 years by that point.
Yeah.
She said, "We're going to sell our home. Would you be willing to negotiate your professional fee in order to get in this market and the exposure?" And for me, it was yes all day long, because now I'm in a higher price point. Now it then spearheads you into other opportunities, and it's done nothing but continue forward
Yeah.
from that point.
Yeah. Yeah. What would be right now your average price point? Are you somewhere at around
630, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the six. I mean, it was 580 last year, and I think we're now about 630.
Yeah. And you want to kind of continue to kind of like a branch out or expand into like a luxury market?
I have a lot of luxury homes.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a luxury realtor, but I've sold modular homes too. Not everybody deserves everybody deserves representation. Everybody deserves your best.
Everybody deserves your love.
Exactly. And that modular home is as important to that person as that $3 million home is to that person.
right.
So I don't care, but I do have a lot of good experience with the luxury homes.
So with the luxury homes, I had a chance to sell a few of them. I think the highest price was like around $2 million, right off 67th and Pinnacle Peak. And I listed that house for 2.2, and we got a cash offer of 1.8, and then we came in the middle at $2 million. It was probably the largest commission check that I got. Single commission check was like $60,000.
Yeah.
You're right. And after that, I sold a few other ones, not as many as you. But do you feel like it's a different type of overall experience working with the sellers or working with the buyers versus someone who's selling at $750?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, I remember my first assistant. We listed a home for $2.5 million. It was our first over $2 million home that we listed. It was back some time ago, and so she came with me to meet them, and she said, and they were people I know well and I love, but she said, "Rebecca, how do you not get nervous?" Because he's an executive of a very large company, and I said, "Because I don't know his business like he does. We're not talking about his business. He doesn't know my business like I do. So as long as we're talking about houses, I can all day long talk to him.
Yeah.
So we have to know our value, and we have to be confident in that value, because I am 100% confident I can talk to anybody on any day about housing market, the economy when it relates to housing market. But can I talk about, fishing? No, I don't know anything about it. Or can I talk about, some of these other fields? No, I can talk to him about it, but I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So when you go to your listing appointments, do you kind of like find some commonalities between you and a client? How do you build a rapport?
I think, I just think that a rapport is built when they feel you're genuinely caring about them. And that comes from a place of listening. Just listen to them. People want to talk to you. They want to tell you why they're doing what they're doing and their story.
Yeah.
And if you're a transactional realtor, you don't care. You go in and you get the deal. But a relationship realtor needs to understand. I sat down with somebody yesterday and I said, "What are you thinking? What is your timeline? What are you going to?" And just opening up that conversation helps them feel that you're listening to them, and you want to know. You want to help them.
Yeah.
And actually what I advised her to do was not sell her house yet.
Oh, wow.
It's not time for her. And that's okay. She's not ready. And that's okay. That's it'll come when it comes.
You told her that I don't think it's the right time for you.
Right. I said, I can tell you what your value is today,
Interesting.
but I don't think this is the time that you're looking to sell your home. So we'll have this conversation again when that time is right. In the meantime, we can talk 100 times, anytime you want. But it's based on what you're looking for. This is probably not the right time.
Okay, so she's looking for a price that she cannot get at this point.
Looking for a future home that is not going to be available at the price she wants.
Oh, got it.
So we need her to stay stable in her home
Got
until
it.
she's ready to go to the next.
So it's all about setting expectations.
Setting expectation and navigating the timeline so that it works best for them, not for me.
Not for you.
The best thing for me is to sell her house. That's not what's best for her, so.
Got it. All right. So if I'm a new agent, experienced agent, struggling agent, or even top producing agent, what would you recommend for them right now, especially in this market where we're dealing with? What would be your recommendations in terms of like how can they, grow their business, expand their business?
Yeah.
What would you say the 2, 3, 4 things that are most important?
I think it's them setting their own expectation of what they're dealing with right now. Don't take it personal. It's not you. It is a very hard market for seasoned agents as well as new agents. So don't base your career off what's happening right now. Think about, okay, I have some time here. I'm going to use this time to become really good for when that market does start to go into high drive. So I would be holding open houses. I would probably hold open houses with a lender or a title company. I remember when I first did I didn't even understand what title was. They called me and said, it's closed, or it's funded. And I didn't understand that funded is not the same thing as recorded.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of nuances and things that people need to understand that you just kind of learn.
Yeah.
So I would spend time with people who know what they're doing and learn as much as you can, because it will happen. And you'll get deals along the way here and there. They may not be as frequent as you want them. They're coming.
Yeah.
I really do believe they're coming.
So you're a proponent of open houses, holding open houses.
I don't hold them myself because I don't need them.
If you're up and coming agent, right?
That's why I don't hold them open.
Yeah.
I want people to hold mine open,
right?
So they get opportunities.
Yeah. So open houses. What else?
Open houses, mentoring or shadowing people, learning from that. Transaction coordinator. If you have to earn some money somehow, go be a transaction coordinator. If you're the right price, there's lots of seasoned agents who could use a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
And then I would say, tell everybody you know, open your mind to what your sphere is. An agent came to me, she had only been doing it a little bit. And I said, well, what do you love? She couldn't find the deals. I said, what do you love? She loves NASCAR. Well, I don't know anything about NASCAR. I'm never going to be in her realm. I said, well, do you hang out with people who love NASCAR? Oh, yeah, they have parties. They go to the racetracks. So you need to tell every one of those people that you're selling houses. That's your sphere.
Yeah.
So figure out your sphere and then really, really capitalize on it. And share what you know about the market, even if they're not selling a house. So
absolutely.
Continually give them market updates, whether they're selling a house or not, because when they do sell a house, they'll be ready to call you.
Yeah, planting those seeds. Don't be a closet realtor. Build your brand from day one. Mm-hmm. Don't rely on your brand from day one.
No, you got to build it first.
Build it first, and it takes years and years and years and years, right? And just continue to push through. I mean, that's what we all have to do. Immerse yourself into the real estate business. I mean, it's just that alone, being a student of the game and learning from other agents, being in a room with the successful agents, producing agents, and also the vendors like title and loan officers. That's a recipe for success.
And they can go to model homes and learn things that people like and things that are on the cusp. There are lots of ways to get in houses and learn about floor plans and function. There are so many ways to learn.
Yeah. And while you're there, actually just whip up your phone and record it, do a video on it, and then post it on social media and YouTube.
They don't know that's not your house. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Well, listen, Rebecca, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Learned quite a bit, and hopefully our audience learn as well. Where can they find you? social media?
Yeah, I'm on social media.
email?
My name, Rebecca
Yeah.
Durfee. I have a business account. I have a personal account. They're both fine. My email is my name, Rebecca Durfee at kw.com. I'm unfortunately or fortunately, I'm everywhere, so they can find me.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
thank you. I appreciate you letting me.
Thank you. Take care, guys.